what the fuck is a slow morning when I've got 30K cash months to build?
Request nowadays, I want to build fast. I want to have a money 6 months, a year, whatever. It's quite a fast period.
Your body is speaking to you constantly, and we've never been taught how to decode what the body is actually showing.
Either you have to step in with your time and your energy or money, or you have to give me the resources to kind of like duplicate me.
Once I hit 10K, once I hit 20K, once I hit 30K, 50K, and I'm like, how happy are you? Pretty much everything in a relationship can be repairable if both parties are willing to lean in.
I love that. Tia, I love that. I'm so excited to welcome you back to the Life First Business podcast because this episode is going to be so good, so good. And I think it's absolutely going to align with Life First Business podcast values and message. So I want to start this episode a little differently because I see and, talk to so many women that is my primary audience here. Okay. And I hate them see like paying the price for success in a way that absolutely could be eliminated. So I wanted to record this episode because I'm honestly so tired of watching so talented women reach, let's say, certain level of success just to find themselves disconnected from their families, from their partner, or, finding themselves alone, which not necessarily they want to. Or they're so consumed by their businesses that they want to grow a family, but they literally don't know how to. Or they want to start a family, but they literally don't know how to. Like, how are they going to stop working? They don't have the tools to just stop and kind of like switch. So for me, this is not success. And I don't think for you, it's a success either. So my guest today is such a knowledgeable and honestly such a cool expert that truly bridges the gap between, your highest cash month, your health, and your subconscious patterns that basically are running your life. Okay. So without further ado, my guest today is Tia Maher, a health and subconscious mentor for 6 and 7 female founders. And what she does is she truly bridges the gap between functional lab testing, emotional mastery, and subconscious pattern work to truly help women, upgrade themselves, not necessarily the business itself. Okay. So she's going to walk us through her own, journey, her own turning point, how she rebuilt her business, her identity, and also her marriage at the same time. And also what she teaches other women so they don't have to learn the hard way. And from what I've seen, she's very direct. She's super funny, so funny. And she's not going to sugarcoat any of this for you today. So let's get into it. So Tia, welcome to the Life First Business podcast. I'm so excited to have you. I really want to start with, your story because you are very openly share, your story on Instagram. So I just think we can just start with who you are, what do you do, and how you got here. So please take the mic.
Hello, my love. Thank you so much for having me. What a beautiful intro. I was like, yes, queen. Thank you everyone that's listening as well. I feel like we're going to go through lots of juicy nuggets today. And I want to take you guys back, let's say 7 years ago, right? Because it's like, when I look at my life and when I look at the exact patterns and behaviors that literally ran me, it's like that was the root cause of so many things that happened. So I think it's really important for me to take everybody back. So 7 years ago, I was an event producer. I was doing all the big events all around the world, managing multi-million budgets, and I was killing it, right? I was gunning for the big promotions, and then I ended up in hospital with 6 stomach ulcers. Right? And I was dealing with IBS, I was dealing with acne on my face, I was dealing with all of these chronic health issues. And I very much then was like, okay, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know how to pull myself out of this because I was just getting all this pushback from doctors. I was just getting, it's just IBS or it's just this, you just have to live with it. I spent years trying to fix that. But then when COVID hit, I remember just being like, oh my God, now is my chance. Now's my chance to get out, right? And so I walked through this really big healing journey to heal my physical body. I then birthed a multiple 6-figure business, did all of the amazing things, helping women to heal from their gut issues through my methodology, which is the labs and the somatic piece, the stress piece. And then I found myself a year and a half ago in that deep pattern of like, must make the money, building the business and hitting the 20K months. And like, you know, I was on radio and I was doing all these interviews on stage and I was like, whoa, peak career. I found myself alone on my bathroom floor within the wreckage of my marriage, just like that. When I look at the thread and the through line between all of that is that I was actually in chronic self-abandonment. And I think that so many of us are fed this narrative in life of like, oh, we have to push more and we have to push more, we have to succeed, we you know, we're ambitious. And that was then when I really realized what the cost of me over functioning, the cost of me consistently like overarching my own needs started to take its toll on me. And so now you're getting me in the rebuild, which is a beautiful place to be in, right? And it's like, I don't want to say, I figured everything out, la, la, la. It's like, I am now in this process of like, okay, how do I want this next iteration of Tia to look, this next iteration of business to look? And I love it because you're getting me in the raw, real moments of the rebuild. And I think that that's a really beautiful place to actually be able to share from.
I love that. I love your journey because I never knew that I thought you were like always entrepreneur, but it turns out you were like killing it at your corporate job. Then you kind of like switched. For me, COVID also was the moment when I started my entrepreneurial journey. But for me, the motherhood kind of kicked it on me like, girl, you have to now or never, now or never. So I see similar like path here with COVID and like world changing, but it's just like killing it in your corporative career, then like, okay, I'm on my own now. I have to pay my own bills. Like there's no clients coming. I have to be the sales, the marketing and the delivery, right? Worked until it's like didn't anymore.
Yeah, and it's that case of like wherever you go, there you are. You know, I thought, oh, once I leave my corporate, I'll suddenly, not be stressed out. I'll suddenly have everything fixed. I brought the exact same patterns, behaviors from burning out in corporate into building my multiple six-figure business. And it's like, holy shit, how many of us are actually still running that? And it's like, even yesterday, I see it everywhere. People posting reels being like, I'm the most burnt out I've ever been, but like the drive to keep going and to fulfill my income dream is bigger. And I'm just like, we've got it so fucking wrong. Like, we literally have it so wrong. And I love that, Christine, like your podcast is called like Life First. You know what I mean? It's like we forget that. And I think sometimes it takes like a really big like life event or something astronomical happening in our lives to actually wake us up and to realize that like, wow, it's not just about building all the money.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that it takes a big life event to like make us like realize that. And unfortunately, that's most of the times true. It's just a matter of like how big the event will be and like when it's going to wake you up. Like what's the moment? Like how far are you able to go? Like how far do you think you will able to go? Like how deep down so you can like wake up. So I think we can dive right in because we already covered so much. And I actually would love for you, because you already mentioned like self-abandonment and overfunctioning, and you talk a lot about it on social media. So maybe you can like share like what are the signs for a woman that she's like self-abandoning and she's like completely over-functioning and like realizing that, hey, it's not going to stop. Whether you are hitting 6 figures, 7 figures, like it's going to happen. So what are the signs so women can like self-identify themselves?
Yeah, and like before I dive into this, I want to preface like one thing is like I was the most self-aware human you've ever met. Right? Like I was the chick who was in the therapy, who was doing all the personal development, and yet I was still in self-abandonment. And this is what's really interesting because it's like if we look at the over-functioning piece, right? It's essentially we are breaking our own boundaries with certain things, right? Or we are not able to set boundaries with certain things, or we say we're going to do something and then we break that commitment to ourselves, right? And that over functioning piece for me very much showed up as I could not switch off. It was like I would close my laptop and then I'd be sitting watching Netflix and I'd be like downloading content ideas or I'd be scrolling for inspiration. Or I, right? And everyone's like, "Oh my God." Or it's like you're constantly thinking about it. Like I literally was chatting to a client the other day and she was just like, Tia, like I went to the sauna, I went to the gym to try and like switch off, but all I could think about was work. And it's this, like you'll feel it. It's this antsy feeling of like, I don't know how to stop. And like I work with the body a lot. So like women can feel it, right? It's this like it's this almost like need to go all the time. I never actually learned how to rest. It doesn't feel safe for us, right? So we're just constantly in this production mode. So for me, that also looked like I worked until 9 p.m. at night sometimes. Or I would constantly be like, okay, well, I'm going to pour into my business and I'm going to completely just be like, oh, sorry, babe, like, we'll do dinner another night or we'll do whatever, right? And it was just this consistent dropping myself. And then also the symptoms from the self-abandonment piece can also be a lot of health issues. If I look at the two threads throughout my life, right, it's like there's the burnout piece where it's like you literally don't know how to stop, right? Where it's like everything looks amazing online, but behind the scenes, you're like, oh my God, you're anxious, right? You're trying to figure out how you're going to hold it. And then from the self-abandonment piece as well, that can sometimes come out in a lot of health issues for women. The luteal phase of your cycle is like the devil incarnate, and now the whole household has to brace, right? We're dealing with gut issues. Like that was my bread and butter for a really long time. I also have clients that are literally like, I really want to book the photo shoot and, hire the Rolls Royce and have this amazing photo shoot. But it's like, I'm constantly inflamed and I just keep getting pushed away from my doctor. Right. And it's like all of these anchor points are very much this sign that like we don't have the body to be able to hold the business that we're actually leading, or we're dealing with a system that cannot handle the stress that is actually into play. And like that impacts our business. And that actually impacts how much enjoyment we get out of business. Because like I shit do not want to be leading my business feeling like, oh my God, I've got no energy. Of like another big piece as well is like if you're waking up in the morning and the first thing that you're doing is checking your Instagram or checking your Stripe balance, it's like that is such an indicator that we are hooked. I call these like nervous system hooks. And it's like, if you think about it, it's like, ooh, where am I trying to find my safety? Right? Ooh, I'm trying to find my safety in that thing outside of me that's like, the high cash months or the perfect husband or the whatever. And it's like, I'm going to be safe when I have all of these things. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, babe, we're going to be safe when we fucking feel safe in ourselves, right? That is the journey. Like that's the journey. And it can come with a lot of, whoa, it can come with a lot of like grief because you start realizing how much you've like overarched yourself for years, how much you have said yes when actually you meant no. It's a really big journey in terms of how we start to bring the body back on board with that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, with like overarching and over like self-abandoning, because I see that a lot. And I actually see that women, let's say before working with me, like in terms of business, they're like, oh, you know what? I really want to scale this thing because in a year or two, I really want to grow my family. I really would love to do this and that, or I would love to do this. And like, okay, I see that from the behind the scenes. I see that still women are paying the price of health, like you mentioned, whether it's time, whether it's self-abandonment. So maybe from your experience, what do you see the price that could be eliminated? That's from my experience, but what do you see? Like, what is the price women pay and why it's so normalized in the industry?
Mm.
Because women are like saying, oh, I feel like shit, but I'm keep going. And we are like, yeah, it's sad. And then we are like doing the same thing. We are like feeding this cycle. We are not like stopping it. So I guess my question is, from your point of view, what is the price women pay? Like you see it from your work. And also, why is this so normalized?
I mean, we pay for it with our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Like the price that we pay is literally either our mental health, our libido. Like that was the biggest one for me, right? Is like I was in this consistent narrative of like, yeah, it's just a season,
Yeah.
right? And we think that all of these things are normal because, like, your friends doing, or Sally down the road is like, oh yeah, I haven't had sex with my husband in a year, and you're like, what the fuck, you
Yeah.
know? Or like, I literally was chatting to a client the other day, and she was like, I was at an event the other day with like seven-figure leaders, and they were all literally being like, yeah, like, I don't really want to touch my husband anymore, you know what I mean? Or like, they're just so locked in. They're just so locked into like, this is my safety. And when we actually look at like the wounding around that, it's like, fuck, of course their business becomes everything. And I think one of the biggest things, like in terms of the narrative with the industry, like it's savage because it's like when we actually look at what's happening online, there is just this consistent narrative of women saying, you get to have it all, but actually, there is this sacrifice that is
There is
happening.
huge sacrificing. I always say, like, you can have it all, but not all at the same time. Like, it's not like from my experience, like, I have lived like 32 years with two kids. It's not like, it's not true for
Yeah.
me, at least.
Yeah, and I even saw a post the other day with a big leader basically saying, that someone had come to her and said, "Do you think I can hit 50K months and work 20 hours a week?" And she was just like, no way. And so I think we're seeing this, we're actually going to start seeing a shift in women that are, hiring mentors like you who are like actually life first, because it's like, what the fuck is the point in us breaking ourselves if we actually can't even enjoy our lives? You know what I mean? It's like you may have the material stuff, you may have all of the things right in your life, the husband, the kids, the money and everything, but then internally you've never been more anxious in your life. And so we've got to be looking at that piece. And I think that the industry actually drives that narrative. I think
Yeah.
that the industry drives like more and more and more. And then I'm looking at people's reels and I can see that they're inflamed. I can see that they're like literally see it in their faces,
Yeah.
or the luteal phase of their cycle, or they're literally saying, "Oh, I had to pause my membership for a couple of days because my period took me out." I'm like, lads, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we actually doing with ourselves? And I think it's just normalized in the industry because they say that that's just the price of success.
Yes, yes. And it's just like that we are laughing it off. Oh yes, the cycle took me out. Ha ha ha, so funny. And you're like, nobody's is like saying, girl, stop.
Yes,
Everybody's just like sitting along at the table and just like, yeah, it happened to me too. How fun. Let's pop champagne on that.
totally. And also the narrative of like, oh, Canva and Claude are my only hobbies. And I'm like, lads, like, what are we doing? I'm off playing paddle eating oysters on a Thursday. Like, can we actually do that instead? So
Yes. Yeah.
it's it's joked about. And it's quite sad because it's like, genuinely, what is the point in that? What is the
Hmm.
point in us building these legacies if our kids are turning around and be like, Mom, why are you always working?
Hmm.
If you can't literally have a slow morning. Like, again, I saw another post the other day being like, what the fuck is a slow morning when I've got 30K cash months to build? And I'm like, fuck me.
Yeah.
So it's subconsciously everybody's like, money, 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 money. That is going to be the thing that solves all our problems.
Hmm. True. True. And other thing that I see that sometimes these women, they're like, okay, I'm feeling this in my body, I'm taking a pause and I'm not doing anything. What do you think about that? I will have my own opinion on that. Maybe you can share what taking a pause mean, and will it like change things?
It's funny, isn't it? You can take a pause, but if you come back in with the same energy and you haven't actually shifted the patterning underneath it, it's pointless. Because it's like everyone's like, oh, I'm off to Crete for 2 weeks. I'm off on holidays. Everything's going to happen. But it's like, cool, you can be in Crete and still be fucking running your to do list in your brain. You know what I mean? You can still be taking all these times and still be like marinating on all the shit that you've got to do. So you're actually not taking a break. You've just told yourself you're offline. And so what we've got to do is we've got to clean up the patterns and the behaviors of overfunctioning, and the patterns and behaviors of like, I won't feel safe until I reach X, Y, and Z. And like the goalposts constantly move. So it's like, yes, you can take the break and let the body heal a little bit. Great. But it's like, why not actually build something that isn't constantly derailing you? That's the piece that I feel needs to be talked about more.
Mm-hmm. And what are you think like your favorite tools, practices, whatever, the ways how we can like clear these subconscious ways? How can we like change our behavior?
This is a process, and I call this the invisible CEO. And we have to become really aware of actually what's happening in our body first, right? So it's a process in terms of becoming, we have to go through the self-awareness phase first. So I'm not sure how aware your audience are, but the first thing is starting to understand our patterns and our behaviors, and like, oh, okay, well, I said I was gonna close my laptop at 5 o'clock and I ended up working until 8. Okay, right, what's happening there? Right? It's like we've overarched ourselves. So what we want to start doing is start becoming aware of the fact that, like, okay, well, we've negotiated with ourselves in that. And I usually find that, like, it will show up in the body. So you'll have a tight chest, you'll have a tense throat, you'll be locking your jaw, your stomach will be gurgling. And it's like your body is speaking to you constantly. And we've never been taught how to decode what the body is actually showing, telling us, right? So it's like if we have like a tightness in our chest, our nervous system is going, ooh, maybe I don't feel safe right now. Ooh, maybe there's an old wound being triggered here, right? And so we've got to become aware of these things, and then we've actually got to listen. So a lot of us, we ignore discomfort, right? We go and we scroll. We go and we watch Netflix marathons. We binge eat. We do these things to numb out the sensations of discomfort. Whereas when we can actually like move through these emotions, that's then what changes the narrative, because I guarantee you it's like the tip of the iceberg, right? It's like everybody's sitting up here and everybody is literally like, there is so much pent up shit that's underneath the surface. That is the reason why women don't stop, because if they stop, they start to feel.
Yeah.
And when they
Yeah.
start feeling, they fucking hate it because it's horrendous, right? Because the only way for us to go kind of through that and change our identity is by actually like moving through those layers of discomfort so that we can actually get out the other side.
It's making total sense. And for me, it was when second baby came, totally like I could not like run my business the way I was running it, and I was feeling it, and it was like comfortable, and it was like, and also it was the time that for me I realized that I need to ask for more, and it's not bad because I literally just gave a child. I would love also to dive in into this like relationships between men and women. Do you think like only we over functioning because we have to, or does we really want to? Because sometimes it's just like have to piece, because other party is not not like included like in the let's get more for our family, or like do we like have to and we cannot stop? So what do you think, what's your take on that? Because sometimes I see women literally like they cannot afford to stop,
Yes.
but sometimes they don't know how to stop. So what is your take on that?
Yeah. And so this is going into wounding. This is going into the wounded feminine. The wounded feminine energy can often, there's like twofold. There's the one who's like hyper vigilance, like controlling, like I can do everything better than you can, right? And she's like, and so for the husband, they're going, well, she's already taken the reins on everything. Like I don't have the opportunity to lead. And so she, in essence, demasculates him, right? And so this is where the I don't need no man independent woman starts to come into place. And this is where she starts like literally nagging. She's like, oh my God, why doesn't he pick up his socks and like la 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 la. And like I can do it better than he can, so I might as well just do it. And so this, I can see you smiling. You're like, yep. And so this is like, that's the energy of um she doesn't know how to ask for help. She doesn't know how to actually be led because she's so busy white knuckling her way through life, right? And then you have the other side of the wounded feminine where she's like, oh, damsel in distress, like, oh, I can't do anything, and she's very much like, she's a walkover, right? This is where she's the biggest people pleaser. This is where people are literally being like, oh, do this for me. And you're like, yeah, sure, right? And so there's two kind of dynamics in that sense of like there's the independent woman, and then there's the real people pleaser. And so what we want to actually look at, and this was a really big part as well of like my marriage repair as well, is like, where are we, what are we sitting in? What's that archetype that we're sitting in? Are we kind of like collapsed, or are we like trying to puppeteer everything? And so if we're trying to puppeteer everything, we've got to be looking at like where you're getting that false sense of control from, where you are actually not, especially what you just said, Christine, is like, where are you not actually asking for support? Because like it's not going to feel safe. It's not going to feel good when you start realizing that like, oh my God, okay, I actually have to stop doing so much. I actually have to start asking for help because we can be very righteous as women and we were like, no, I can do it better, la 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 la, right? Like that was a huge thing for me, was like drive, 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 drive. And then for the people pleaser, we have to actually look at like, okay, why are we letting people walk over us? And there will be a subconscious wound from childhood for both of those, right? And so this is where the subconscious comes in consistently, because you can't just change behaviors without looking at like what actually caused that. So we've got to be looking at like, okay, in your relationships per se, let's take the I don't need my man high, like you like the, I know better than you woman. She basically needs to allow her man to start leading. Now, if he is not willing to do that, then that is a problem. But I am firmly, firmly believe that like pretty much everything in a relationship can be repairable if both parties are willing to lean in. And so we have to look at, okay, well, she's emasculating him. He needs to actually step up and lead, but she has to give him an opportunity to. Because what's been happening is she's just been overarching him. So she needs to show her vulnerability and be like, hey, babe, like, is there any way that you can support me with X, Y, and Z? Because men, they want to support us. They want to step up. They want to be there. They want to be the fucking hero. And so
Yes.
we've got to allow ourselves to be like, okay, where am I not actually sharing what's on my heart? Where am I not actually allowing myself to be vulnerable with this and go, I'm struggling right now. I feel like I'm doing so much right now. How can we make this, how can we make this more even? Where are you willing to help, right? And I'd say that that was a conversation for you when you had your kiddos and you were like, ah, I'm drowning, like help, right? And so that changes that narrative. And then if we look at like the people pleasing side of things, like the other collapse, I actually guarantee probably the majority of your audience is probably in that first iteration of like steaming the business and like being like, woo, trying to get on top of everything.
I will say 50-50 because I see it's all or nothing. It's either this or either that, and there's nothing in between. It's like the same goes, I'm gonna take a pause, but like you mentioned, I'm gonna start exactly where I left, so nothing changes. So I'm like working, taking a pause from everything, from social media, from selling, and it's just like it's not good. It's like all or nothing. And it's same in the relationship, whether they are kind of like, let's say, under the husband and they literally like cannot like see the life for themselves, start something for themselves. If they're starting a business or scaling a business, it has to be kind of talked about, because if I'm here scaling a business, it means that I'm away from you, from family. Either you have to step in with your time and your energy or money, or you have to give me the resources to kind of like duplicate me, whether it's a nanny, whether it's a cook, whether it's a cleaner. Because if I'm not doing those things, that time goes here. So
Yes.
what are we as a family willing to do? Because I'm here building something, because it's not just for me, it's for a family, it's for a joint cause. It's not like I'm building something for just my Chanel bag or my Birkin bag. I mean, it's great, but again, it's joint cause.
Yes.
It's the same for men. if
Yeah.
if he's in a scaling phase, growing phase, that maybe I get to step in more, because
Yes.
I need to take over things, because he is out there hunting for, not for his motorcycle, he's hunting for joined goods for family. Yeah, so I think what's missing is that we are like this boss babe culture. We are scaling our businesses, but we are actually it does not supposed to be alone.
Yeah.
It's always something to talk about. If I'm here working evenings, for what cause? Or if I'm here at the networking event and I'm paying for nanny, driving to capital, I'm all day away, and I'm afraid to go and talk to someone, like, what's the point? What's the point of you going to the networking event? So
Yeah.
what's the point? So I
Yeah.
think it's something that especially women are afraid to talk about, because it's like it's not talked about. It's like, I'm scaling my business over here and you should like understand to step in, or but we are not like asking, hey,
Yeah.
if I'm not taking this ex client, where is the money coming from? Are you going to step in, or we are just having less money and that's fine?
Yeah.
There's like missing conversation, I think,
It is.
what I see.
Totally. And like, we've never been taught how to communicate. Never been taught how to communicate in the right way. And by understanding that each person comes to the relationship with their own wounds, right? Because this is where so much conflict comes from in relationships, is like, okay, and it's just everything in life is just a mirror, right? It's like I look at like what happened in my relationship where it was like abandonment, and I look at, oh, I at 6 weeks old was adopted. So it's like that thread of abandonment throughout my life kept hitting until I stopped self-abandoning myself, right? So that's a really good thing to look at. And like when we're looking at relationships, it's like I brought that abandonment wound to our relationship. My husband, most men bring an inadequacy wound to the relationship. And so we have to start to learn each other's wounding. We have to start learning each other's wounding so that then we can communicate with the person and not just the wound. Right. And so this is where I see so many people go wrong in relationships as well, is like you attack each other, you fight with each other, and you're like, meh, meh, meh. And then the nervous system goes into fight, flight, freeze, or appease response. And then either we're running away, or we're like in a strop, or we're like blah, 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 blah. And so what we have to understand is like, you guys have to come together versus the problem. And that can be really sticky for so many of us. And so exactly what you were saying is like, if you're building and scaling the business and you're not able to have that real vulnerable conversation with your husband, being like, hey, where are we at? Like, if I'm going to go ham for the next 6 months and I'm going to pour into this business, are you going to be able to support with this? Do we need more resources? What do we need? Right. And I think that this is a really big piece of the puzzle for so many women as well, is that like, the communication in their relationships isn't there, which is why then things start to fade. And so that was what happened for us, was that like I just buried my head in the sand, right? And it was just something that like, my libido starting to disappear, and like needs were not being met in the relationship. Building a really strong relationship while you're scaling and growing a business involves a hell of a lot of vulnerability. It involves
Mhm.
actually having the audacity to share your heart, from this is how I feel. Like, this is the story I made up, right? I made up that this scenario made me feel like I'm unloved, I'm unworthy, I'm whatever. So then how can we navigate that together? And then that is what changes the narrative in so many ways.
I love that. What success means for you?
Oh my
Cheesy,
God.
right?
Huh?
Cheesy, but like so necessary.
No,
Such a cheesy question, but
so
such a
real.
necessary question. Yeah.
You know what's so funny is like I I feel like success obviously used to be just money for me and getting the radio deals and all that sort of stuff. And now success for me is actually being present. And I feel like that's so corny. But like the other day, when I was sitting at my terrace in Portugal, like just chilled out to fuck, I literally was like, I've peaked. I have peaked. And it was like, it was pure elation moving through my body. It was pure happiness. That is success. Whereas we have all learned that success equals money, success equals fame, success equals whatever. But if you even look at celebrities, for example, how many of them are miserably unhappy when they're successful on the outside, right? And so it's like success is how we're actually feeling on a day-to-day basis, how our happiness level, our ability to be able to actually like move through life and not constantly feel like we're being chased by a tiger. Truly, for me, it is this case of like success is having a regulated nervous system.
I
That
absolutely understand what you mean by that, with the analogy by the tiger, that you feel that you are not chased by the tiger. You feel just like you are here and now, and you are doing your life. It's sometimes, for me, it's like, it's the phones sometimes take away from that, the phones. So we have to be, I think, nowadays very conscious of how much do we consume and how much do we scroll. But definitely the feeling of contempt, I think it's like that feeling that you are
content.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, you are like, just like, I love my life. I
that
love,
that.
yeah.
And I
Mhm.
did not have that for a very long time. Like I lived in Dubai for 8 years and then I moved to Portugal in January. And honest to God, it's only been in the last like 6 months that I've gone, holy shit, this is what I've been chasing. And I've been chasing something that was in me all along. But it took me to move through the shit. I always talk about emotions. Pain and pleasure are on the same spectrum, right? And if we look at where most people sit, they're in the center point, right? Where they're maybe feeling specific emotions along the spectrum. Our ability to actually be able to hold ourselves in our pain actually increases our ability to be in pleasure
Hmm.
because we
Yeah.
start to open that spectrum. We start to be able to feel these specific emotions. And so, inability to actually be able to look at our grief head on then actually stops us from being able to actually enjoy so much. Because, like, for me, for like, I was bringing in so much money, but I was never present. I didn't know what presence actually was, right? I didn't actually know how to just be like, oh, I feel so happy. I feel so chilled because it was like, stripe hit. I need another stripe hit. It was like a dopamine rush. I think that so many women are feeling that and they're lying to themselves about it. I
Yes.
it's like that goalpost moves. It's like once I hit 10K, once I hit 20K, once I hit 30K, 50K, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how happy are you?
Hmm.
Like, I don't give a fuck how much money you have. I don't
Yeah.
care about the G-Wagon. I don't care about all the things. It's like, are you able to sleep through the night, wake up in the morning, roll over in your bed and have another snuggle with your hubby and feel not an ounce of guilt or not an ounce of like, I have to go, I have to do something, something's going to fall apart. Like, how can we start to get into that state? And we do that through rewiring the nervous system.
That is a good state. That is a good state. You mentioned wiring the nervous system. Maybe you can talk more about, like briefly, about your method, because you have a unique method. You talk about $1 million poop,
I
you
do.
talk about wealth rebels. So walk us through what it really means for you to have a bulletproof business, from
Mm,
what just we talked about, and what is the, like, steps that you add to truly build a bulletproof business.
yeah, I love this because it's like, I feel like my method is so different to everybody else's. Because of my background in functional medicine, it's like one of the first things that I do is like, okay, if you want to build a business and you want to ensure that your health is solid as fuck, let's actually run your lab work. Because there are so many women that are like, yeah, I'm building a business, but like my energy is tanked, or all of the things that we said. And so we run either a poop test or a hormone test. And these are, so the poop test is like 6,000 times more sensitive. And this gives us so much data. For example, I ran my poop test like a few months ago because I noticed my energy was a little bit weird, or like my hormone cycle wasn't as optimal as it normally is. And like I'm 36, so I'm headed towards 40. And so it's like having these pulse points to be able to go, what do I need to optimize, right? What do I need to optimize in my body to actually be able to hold success? Because when I look at what happened in my life a year and a half ago and my marriage blowing up, I didn't have the capacity to hold my business then. Right. So that's very much in which I'll speak to in a second, the subconscious piece. But with the lab work, it's like my lab results were still paying for the trauma that happened a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're like, wow, I don't understand. I don't get how people could do this without this work. And so now it's like I'm now prepping and priming my body to be able to like literally support myself through that. So that's like the $1 million poop angle of like, let me see what is running you. Because it's like if we don't know how our biology is actually running us, then that is actually affecting our business, right? Because like I literally speak to women on a day-to-day basis. They're like, I've got the energy. And so if you haven't got the energy, you are forcing yourself to work when you're knackered and your body is going to break. Like literally your body's going to be like, bitch, sit down. And so autoimmune diseases start to come into play. Our health issues start to take a decline. Like I'm blue in the face of people being like, oh, I'm so inflamed or I'm dealing with all these things. It's because we need to see what's actually driving you. And so that's where the overfunctioning pattern comes in, right? Is like if we're not looking at that piece and we're still trying to plow ourselves and we don't have the lab data, then we need to do that. The second piece of the puzzle is like the subconscious work and the emotional mastery work, right? Is like if we want to grow and scale the business and keep ourselves in the process and our marriage and so on and so forth, we have to become so aware of our nervous system patternings, right? So we've got to be looking at, okay, what is our biggest hook? I will feel safe when I have 10 grand in the bank account. I will feel safe when I'm loved. I will feel safe when everybody thinks that I'm great or whatever. It's like if we can start to understand what our biggest hook is, then we start to realize what we are living life through. So for me, as like a 6 week old adoptee, for me, it was like, I won't feel safe unless everybody loves me. Right. And it was like, that was my thing. Like I held on to that for dear life. So I became a chronic people pleaser and I overarched myself consistently. And that's then when I started overworking because I was like, I need to make sure that my boss thinks that I'm brilliant, or I need
Yeah.
to make sure that I'm doing all these things for my clients. Right. So we've got to look at that thread. We actually have to look at that thread. And a lot of my work is somatic work. Right. So it's like, I could basically, Christine, you could be sharing something with me about your business or about your life, and I'll be able to read your body language. So I could see the subtle lift in the shoulders. I could see the throat tightening, let's say, for example, and I'll be like, okay, what is there? So it's like that is the body communicating that there is an activation happening in the nervous system because the nervous system responds to us through sensation. And so we have to look at, okay, how is my body communicating to me? And then how do I move through that? And then that actually allows us to cut so much shit out of building the business because we're actually able to move through resistancy quite quickly. And then we're less stressed, right? Because
Mhm.
like these overthinking spirals that happen, these long-winded, like we're in these holes. And then it's like in that process as well of emotional mastery, you start to become really good with actually expressing our emotions. And that's then when the marriage piece starts to come in as well.
I love that. I love that because I think that's a true definition of health, like multiple pieces. It's not just like physical health, it's also like our, inner
Mental.
health, like our mental health, like our subconscious work. And then the business comes like as a last piece. So you can actually hold it and build it. Because I think the request nowadays, I want to build fast. I want to have a money 6 months, a year, whatever. It's quite a fast period. So we have to make sure we are like up for that. We are
Yeah.
ready for that. Our
Yeah.
bodies are ready for that. Because like 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago, people build up like slowly so they can like
Yeah.
actually hold it. And now
Yeah.
the request is like, I see this girl living on Instagram and she did that in a year. I want that as well.
Exactly. Or it's like, I made 100K in 5.5 seconds. And everyone's like, what the fuck? Right?
Yeah.
And like, if I actually look at that thread piece that you just talked about in terms of like the nervous system, it's like when we go through big life events, so marriage broke down, like I was so lucky to have built a business that had so much recurring revenue that like I just rode that wave for all of last year, right? Because I did not have the bandwidth to sell.
Hmm.
And this is the funny piece as well, is that like I knew how to sell. I was a weapon at selling, but I didn't sell. And so it's like, why didn't you sell, Tia? Because when I went through that big marriage like breakdown, I went into myself. I went into, I cannot handle any more rejection. I don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to be able to hold things. And so when we actually look at these pieces, it's like most of us don't need more strategy. We need to be able to actually lead ourselves through these big things. And so for me, I was just like, I'm out because that just wiped me. And now I'm in this season where it's like, cool, my marriage is back up and running. I'm solid again. Now it's like, okay, now I'm in a season of like, let's start building this new thing because we
Mhm.
changed, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's also a really big piece of the puzzle in terms of like building these businesses is like, we're the ones that change. The
Hmm.
strategy doesn't change. We all know problem awareness, solution aware, results driven content. We know how to market and sell. We're the ones that change. And so nobody is actually really dealing with the art of change, the art of how we actually grow as the woman behind the business.
I love that. Tia, I love that. I think we can wrap this beautiful conversation up in a beautiful ribbon, and maybe you can tell the last words now. But if the woman listening to this episode and she's like, okay, yes, that's me. Okay, that's me, that's me. Like, what's the one thing you want to tell her and to implement after hearing this? One thing.
I actually really want you to get honest with yourself, like brutally honest with yourself of like, are you happy with how you've been running things? And if the answer is no, then start shifting that. Like take a minute, journal things out, be like, okay, these are the things that like I actually want to shift. And then start looking at like, okay, what do I need what do I need to do in order to become the woman that I really want to bring to life, right? So you might need to dive into more self-awareness stuff. You might need to start being able to process your emotions better. You might start needing to be able to, get your lab results and so on and so forth. That's always the ticket to entry for people. Is like, yeah, give me the labs, right? And it's like just start with some of those things in terms of like, okay, I know that I am in this identity shift and I want to lead in a different way. And so don't overwhelm yourself, but take one little step today of like, okay, how can I start taking this journey, because it is a journey, and start understanding my emotions better and start being.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so, so much for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so open today with me. And I hope that everyone listening will hear, what I just heard, that, what success really is to you. And based on that, build your life, build your business the way. So, where can we connect with you if you have something for anyone who's listening?
Yeah.
Please share.
Yes, you can find me on It's TMR on the Grammy, and I'll link with you, Christine, the Xanax Effect, which is my 30-minute freebie, which is basically where we actually start to melt pressure without costing our ambition. And it's a somatic practice. I lead you through a beautiful practice to just be able to like reset the system from a nervous system level. And I feel like once you feel that, you're like, oh damn. Like I think we sometimes forget like how dysregulated we actually are, and then we go through these practices and we're like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to lead from like, a relaxed state. So you can find me there, and I would love to connect. Feel free to drop me a message on Instagram.
Thank you so, so much. I absolutely love the conversation with you today. And if anyone listening like really resonate with this, send me a DM or T a DM, whatever, so we know that you're listening. So we know that you love this episode. And once again, thank you, Tia, so much for your time, energy, and for beautiful wisdom. And I cannot wait for this episode to drop. Thank you so much.